we've got Mercury in retrograde full swing with the conjunction with the sun highlighting our Mercury retrograde trends of the period, along with the new moon happening later on this week, too. So we're in a transition phase this week. And from what I've gathered around, kind of a glitching out phase, whether it's computers, mobile devices, or actual brains, noticing how the Merc-Ret thing, where, one or two step processes take like five additional steps, those kinds of things definitely coming into play. And even the very simple things like just double checking keys, wallets, phones, that kind of stuff. It's, much easier to misplace these items or come up with these, you know, minor things that are slightly annoying but add up over time. So sometimes it's hard during these periods to put our finger on the one thing that's, getting us frustrated or riled up or that's seeming like a blockage, but really it's actually multiple small things that line up through the course of the day. So, ways to navigate this, as we're going into this week and going into midweek with a square to Mars, bringing these actions and potentially, you know, frustrations or, scattered energies around actions and doing things, we can kind of try to slow down and acknowledge that we actually have some really good energy to go along with this at the new moon this week, with Venus and Jupiter and Mercury joining those two in Aquarius. So that's one thing that we really could focus on for the energetic weather patterns this week, is how lovely and colorful and vibrant Venus and Jupiter are when they move into conjunction. And this happens about once every year or so. But since Jupiter just moved into Aquarius, this is really special because it's Venus's turn to sort of join the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. So she's reinventing her look and her love and her relationships and what she wants to attract into her life. So it's all about expansion and growth this week at the new moon for Venus. But before we get there, we've got the dark moon and Mercury retrograde early on in the week. And I'm starting to laugh about this just because it's literally been, just glitch after glitch, Mercury retrograde thing. And it's hard to not blame Mercury retrograde, but it's also hard to not notice the patterns when they're happening, especially on a dark moon phase, which is the end of a moon cycle. It's when we're like letting go, when we're like, purging what wasn't working in the last cycle, and, protecting our seed of our intentions, that kind of thing. When we get a dark moon and Mercury retrograde line up, and it generally happens once every Mercury retrograde, it's generally the worst part of the phase, I've noticed, where it's like, the moon phase is not supportive of new beginnings or, fresh starts because it's the dark moon. So we're doing the letting go process. And then Mercury retrograde's like moving backwards for our plans and our perspectives and even our motivation in some cases. And so it's really, really double hard to get anything like off the ground during that 3 or 4 days period where those two would align. So that's how we're starting the week. Added to that, Venus has been in conjunction with Saturn, which happened last Saturday, which was all about boundaries and relationships, and feeling, also like we're ready for a long-term commitment and ready to look at what we value for comforts long-term to make something solid out of something. So she's getting a little less serious this week too. At the new moon in Aquarius, she's going to be conjunct Jupiter, which is the planet of luck, expansion, and joy, which I had just mentioned. So this new moon in Aquarius is very important. We've got to be careful with new moons on the actual days, though, because it's not new until 2:06 p.m. Thursday afternoon. So until we get to that point, we're still in this dark moon phase, the, letting go and protection process. Whoops. Well, there you go. If you want to send me money, there's the link for tips. But so here on the calendar, the dark moon energy going Tuesday into Wednesday, and then Wednesday we have this activation here with Mercury retrograde. Okay, Mercury retrograde is trining the North Node, which means this is good for karmic movement, good communication, and ideas and perspectives to really kind of wrap things up. So let's look at wrapping things up. That was a big theme that was coming through leading up to this new moon, because Mercury isn't just not doing anything in retrograde. He's going backwards and going over um, the the things that have already been done. Finalizing stuff, refinalizing stuff, editing, changing wording on things. Looking at where we can put more energy into certain areas of what we've already got going on. And in a square to Mars, this is our actions and ambitions coming into play, where Mars wants to go get it and do it and make things happen. So we're going to have to find balance here, and knowing that, yes, we're in a Mercury retrograde, but yes, we also have an action producing angle that's going to have us communicating about what our intentions are, our plans are, or getting projects wrapped up or that kind of thing. The really good news, though, in this bar right below it here, is this activation with Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. It's a triple conjunction of these planets in Aquarius. And so Mercury is our thoughts, our ideas, our perspectives. Venus is what we love. It's our relationships, our friendships. It's what we value in life. And Jupiter is what brings us joy and expansion, and is like the fun, jovial energy about stuff. So we could really channel some of this energy, especially at the new moon, because that's when Venus and Jupiter are exact there on Thursday, to really get colorful and playful and reinventive with some of these things, and really having a little trust in a Mercury retrograde. So, okay, maybe we've got the glitches out of the way the first part of the week, you know, but it's like we can actually sort of rely on it for that sometimes too, where it's like everything's not rushing forward at the same speed. We actually can like go back and be like, okay, yeah, I want to put more love, which is Venus, into this idea or project or thing that will bring me more abundance, which is Venus and Jupiter. So there's another sort of dual thing that's happening here, where I'm noticing many that are having ideas that are financial in nature, whether they're business related, or creative energies. And Venus and Jupiter would always say, get it and do it, make it fancy, go big, get the expensive thing, get something nice, that kind of thing. But we have to be aware that Mercury in retrograde is not normally the best time to make big purchases, make new agreements, and that kind of thing. So we're going to have to sort of play with both of those energies and not have a hard line against either. It's all about expressing the planetary energies, not about limiting one over the other. So as long as we're using discernment and kind of double checking everything, Mercury retrograde style, maybe we get a flash deal or sale on something, and instead of something that's more expensive than you thought, or didn't have as many, was missing a piece or something, maybe it has something extra. Maybe you get a bonus. So we could try to look at it that way, where instead of running like 15 minutes late with Mercury retrograde, it can also be like 15 minutes early, because it's still an adjustment. So it's not always a bad thing. And added to that theory, Pallas Athena, she's a goddess asteroid, is not on the calendar here, but she's in direct conjunction with this whole Mercury retrograde realignment story that's happening right now, and with the sun at this new moon. And she is a pattern recognizer and solves things before they even become problems. So it's a very, a asteroid that's related to truth and thinking and getting things figured out ahead of time, in a peaceful, fun, and constructive way. So we can sort of take a breath in a way and be like, okay, let's lay out this whole game plan, and work on things one thing at a time in advance. It's not like a rush kind of thing, especially with Mercury in retrograde. And new moons are innocent new beginnings. It's not like everything is going to happen on Friday the 12th. But it is like when we begin things, it gives us new potential, new growth potential that lasts a longer time, especially if it's on a not fertile time like the days prior to the new moon. So we're remembering that. And then we've got this activation here on over the weekend. Neptune sextile Mars. The moon will support that from Pisces, which is exciting because that's very poetic, very creative. So those in the healing arts professions, and those into fantasy and characters and looks and that kind of thing can really channel on working with Neptune coming up here this weekend, because that moon in Pisces is very connected to the arts, activating that Neptunian energy, and then Mars would have us creating the art and taking time to do the art, and in Taurus, making sure we have what we need, as far as tools to be creative and to express in those ways. So, overall, it feels like, yes, a Mercury retrograde week, but it's a week of transition into some new energy, and especially regarding Venus, which is our what we're attracting and what we want to have, that we value, that we love in our life. So it's also, in a way, a word of caution, to continue finding that balance and not jump headstrong into some, too good to be true, like home purchase or something. And then you realize like all the pipes are needing to be replaced or something because Mercury retrograde was happening when you bought it. Like, things like that can still happen, so we're enjoying the fruits, enjoying the benefits of this triple conjunction, but also acknowledging that we can apply these to things that we already have going and inspirations that we've already set in motion, to sort of add new energy or new movement to something. New moons can be good for that too. It's not just about always like starting from scratch. It can be a good time to like put a little refresher on it, So Mercury will conjunct Jupiter here next Sunday as we're doing our next update. And this is more exciting news, Mercury being news and perspectives, Jupiter being, expansion and joy. So there could be some good news in the air, especially for the signs Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, the air signs, really channeling in that energy. And then also you all will be in the best line for this new moon as well, having all these really good reinventive and flowing ideas. I think our thought processes could really begin to realign in a sense, so it won't feel so glitchy come next week. And Venus is also in a positive angle with the lunar nodes, which shows a positive karmic twist to all of this energy. So we'll talk in next week about how Saturn is squaring Uranus, which is a big motion in the stars and sort of a breaking out, breaking free from difficulty kind of thing. There can be some growing pains associated with that. But Chiron's supportive of this healing process. So if anybody's starting to feel that early, because those are such slow movers, those would be the signs Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. Definitely could even be feeling like physical pains, physical body. Saturn's our bones and our structural system. So just remembering that we are upgrading, into some in some kind of way with Uranus, and so that can come with challenging our old patterns or our old way that we were moving our body and our bones and that kind of thing. So looking at it in those ways can be helpful. That we're moving up, but we have to use both planets. It can be hard work, but we'll talk about that more next week. But some could be feeling that energy as we're approaching this sort of continuation of this need to break through or break free into something, but all the work that entails, so that is good for this week. Here's the actual links for any tips you'd want to send. I'm super grateful for those. Thank you to anybody who's sent those donations. Every little bit helps out there. And then if you want to subscribe monthly, you can do that with the link in the description here to my Patreon, where you can get some fun things like that calendar you saw behind me. And there's also an option where you can get a personal reading every month too. So that's all at my website, astrologywithcumulus.com. See you next week. Love you.